Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works.
Michael Douglas, the son of Hollywood royalty Kirk Douglas, had a unique path to stardom. Unlike his father, his journey to fame straddled both television and film, as well as producing and acting. He didn't initially make the mark he intended, but once he gained recognition, he rightfully carved out a reputation as a charismatic leading man, equally capable of excelling in both drama and comedy. Douglas began his career with small roles in films and occasional lead performances before gaining fame through the television series The Streets of San Francisco. Despite this early success on television, his credibility in Hollywood was truly cemented as a producer when his first major production effort, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, won him an Oscar for Best Picture. Still, several subsequent roles didn't quite establish him as a serious actor in the public's eyes. Not even 1984's sleeper hit, Romancing the Stone, a film he produced and starred in, seemed to turn the tide, with Douglas discarding big names like Burt Reynolds, Clint Eastwood, Paul Newman, and Sylvester Stallone, and taking the lead. Things finally changed in 1987 with one of the most impressive one-two punches in Hollywood history. First, with his role in the blockbuster Fatal Attraction, and then with his Oscar-winning performance as Gordon Gekko in Wall Street. Whilst many actors of his stature are celebrated for their range, Michael Douglas is known for excelling within a narrower band of roles. His reputation comes from portraying characters with questionable or non-existing morals, creating a niche for himself as the go-to actor for these morally gray figures. This type of career path fits naturally for someone who seriously started acting during the new Hollywood movement of the 1970s, an era when actors like Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, and Al Pacino similarly gained prominence by portraying flawed, complex characters. Michael Douglas's career spans 7 decades and includes over 50 films. With a career as long and prolific as his, it's inevitable that some titles get overshadowed by more successful entries. These films may not have won major accolades or made a splash at the box office, but that doesn't mean they're lesser titles when it comes to their quality. So, to give them the attention they deserve, here are my top 5 picks for Michael Douglas's most underrated movies, listed in chronological order. But before I get started, here are some honorable mentions. 1979's The China Syndrome, James Bridges' innovative disaster movie, made a big splash when it was released, but has since been forgotten. In this title, Douglas plays an intrepid cameraman who, along with reporter Kimberly Wells, unveils a potential safety cover-up at a nuclear power plant. 1993's Falling Down, Joel Schumacher's tale of William Foster, a man who experiences a mental breakdown during a traffic jam and embarks on a violent journey across LA, leading to a series of intense and unpredictable encounters. 1997's The Game, David Fincher's understated thriller follows a wealthy and isolated investment banker who receives a mysterious game as a birthday gift from his brother. As he participates in the game, his life becomes increasingly disrupted, leading him to question reality and confront a potential conspiracy. And finally, one title to avoid, the period piece Oscar bait flop of 1992, Shining Through, a mere excuse to showcase 1940s costumes and mediocre cinematography, a poor use of Douglas in a title that continuously defies logic and the audience's intelligence. Definitely one to avoid. And now moving on to the ranking, at number 5 we have The Star Chamber. Picture this, a justice system that lets criminals walk free on technicalities whilst victims are left without recourse. This moral quagmire is where we find Michael Douglas in The Star Chamber, playing Judge Stephen Hardin, an idealistic judge who joins a secret cabal of vigilante judges who use their own moral code to sentence criminals to death through hired assassins. Initially seduced by the idea of true justice, Hardin joins the group but soon realizes the dangers and ethical compromises of such unchecked power. Now, this film isn't without flaws. Its first hour unfolds at a glacial pace. The movie's first act works as a setup It focuses on Michael Douglas's character, and it's quite dialogue-heavy, which led viewers to think the movie was just dragging its feet. Critics also noted its jarring tonal shift from legal drama to a conventional thriller. Finally, some viewers also found the movie's exploration of vigilante justice oversimplified, offering a black-and-white treatment of complex moral issues. Together, critics and audiences found that, although the premise itself was intriguing, the final film failed to tackle the moral complexities of the issue at hand, instead offering a straightforward approach to the story. Still, despite these criticisms, here's why this title is still worth your time. Douglas's portrayal of Hardin's internal struggle between idealism and pragmatism creates a compelling character study of a man corrupted by good intentions. His character adds a much-needed depth to the film's central moral dilemmas. The supporting cast, which includes Yapeth Kotto, elevates the material further, with Hal Holbrook delivering a particularly memorable performance as the morally ambiguous Judge Caulfield, a character who's reasonable and well-intended, yet ruthless in his pursuit of justice. The Star Chamber also succeeds on a technical front. Director Peter Hyams, known for his knack for blending genres, with his work on 1981's Outland acting as a testament to his abilities, creates a visual atmosphere that mirrors the moral ambiguity that's at the film's center. The Star Chamber meetings themselves are masterclasses in tension, with shadowy cinematography that heightens the secretive nature of their proceedings. These sequences and the way they were executed not only serve as dramatic focal points, but visually convey the tension and ethical dilemmas at play. The way the film explores its central themes is another of its strengths. As previously mentioned, Hal Holbrook's character injects a noir sensibility that permeates throughout the narrative. The film successfully taps into the areas covered by vigilante-driven thrillers of the 1970s and brings a fresh perspective that ushers the genre into the 1980s. By choosing to portray members of formal institutions seeking justice rather than just individuals, it shifts the narrative away from the one-man army approach and focuses on how the discontent within traditional bureaucracies opens up new avenues for executing justice. Finally, what makes the Star Chamber particularly compelling is how it challenges us, the audience, to consider the same questions that plague our judicial system today. How do we balance due process with public safety? At what point does the pursuit of justice becomes another form of injustice? The Star Chamber offers a critical commentary on the limitations and loopholes within the American justice system, sparking reflections on the need for reform. And like many thrillers of its era, it refuses to provide easy answers, instead inviting viewers to wrestle with these questions themselves. This 1983 title may have been relegated to a low-effort, incomplete thriller tier, but the fact remains that the engaging narrative and premise deliver the goods and won't leave you indifferent. From moral ambiguity to cultural collision, Douglas's next underrated gem came right after his rise to superstardom. And that's where you find the fourth entry on this list, Black Rain. Ridley Scott's Black Rain follows Detective Nick Conklin, played by Michael Douglas, a tough New York City cop with a reputation for bending the rules. Alongside his partner, Charlie Vincent, played by Andy Garcia, Nick apprehends a Japanese gangster named Sato Koji, played by Yosaku Matsuda, during a violent altercation. Tasked with escorting Sato back to Osaka for trial, Nick and Charlie find themselves out of their element in Japan's unfamiliar culture and rigid legal system. The situation is aggravated when Sato escapes custody upon arrival, plunging the American duo into Japan's dangerous criminal underworld, controlled by the Yakuza. As Nick teams up with Japanese detective Masahiro Matsumoto, played by Ken Takakura, cultural clashes arise between Nick's brash American methods and Matsumoto's disciplined approach. Black Rain came on the heels of Michael Douglas's massive success with Wall Street and Fatal Attraction. The movie benefited from Michael Douglas's increased popularity, achieving moderate U.S. box office success and ultimately becoming a global hit. But as the prophecy of Japan becoming the #1 global economy faded, so did the prominence and relevance of Ridley Scott's movie. Even at the time of its release, Black Rain faced criticism for its reliance on cultural stereotypes and the predictable fish-out-of-water narrative. Many also felt the title prioritized style over substance, with critics particularly targeting its weak script and uninspired dialogue. Still, there's a lot to love when it comes to this late 80s title. What critics missed when appraising this title was how striking the film's visual identity was. Black Rain serves as a nostalgic reminder of an era when Ridley Scott's movies didn't suck. The Osaka setting creates an atmospheric backdrop that echoes the neon noir aesthetic of Ridley Scott's magnum opus, Blade Runner, and contribute greatly to the movie's slick visuals. While Scott's direction delivers some of the most thrilling action sequences ever captured in a police procedural, including high-speed motorcycle chases and intense confrontations. Casting plays a pivotal role in the success of any film, and Black Rain certainly delivers on this front. Douglas delivers a solid performance, but it's the supporting cast that really shines here. The chemistry between Andy Garcia and Ken Takakura creates a dynamic that would later inspire buddy cop franchises like Rush Hour. Particularly poignant is Yusaku Matsuda's menacing turn as a villain, a performance made more powerful through the knowledge that he was suffering from bladder cancer during the shooting and passed shortly after filming. A special mention goes to Mrs. Spielberg herself, Kate Capshaw, who excels in her femme fatale role, bringing a stunning and compelling energy to the screen.
Where'd you learn how to speak Japanese?
Chicago.
Another standout feature of Black Rain is Hans Zimmer's unforgettable score. One of the composer's earlier works, the soundtrack blends electronic and orchestral elements, creating a unique soundscape that complements both the film's visual style and its Osaka set action. The music enhances the movie's noir-like atmosphere, with Zimmer cleverly incorporating traditional Japanese musical elements without ever slipping into cliches. Bonus points for the track Laserman, contributed by iconic Japanese musician Ryuichi Sakamoto, which further enriches the film's sonic palette. Beyond its technical achievements, Black Rain stands as a fascinating time capsule of American-Japanese relations at the end of the 1980s. While some of its cultural observations may feel dated or simplistic today, the film captures a moment when Japan's economic rise created both fascination and tension in the American consciousness. Also, though the film occasionally sensationalizes the inner workings of the Yakuza, it provides an intriguing glimpse into the Japanese criminal underworld. For fans of 80s cinema, it's a prime example of the era's take on action thrillers and a perfect specimen of the buddy cop genre that flourished during the decade. And whilst Black Rain explores external conflict, the third title on this list finds Douglas's attention focused on another battlefield, marriage. Of course, I'm talking about the other 1989 classic, The War of the Roses. This Danny DeVito-directed dark comedy gives us a glimpse into the lives of Barbara, played by Kathleen Turner, and Oliver Rose, played by Michael Douglas, a couple who appears to have it all: wealth, success, and a beautiful home. However, beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect marriage lies years of resentment and dissatisfaction. When Barbara decides she wants a divorce, their shared desire to keep their lavish home leads to an all-out war. What begins as petty squabbles over furniture and possessions escalates into increasingly absurd and destructive acts of revenge. As their battle spirals out of control, their once loving relationship devolves into hatred and chaos, turning their home into a literal war zone. War of the Roses marked the third collaboration between the Romancing the Stone trio, Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner, and Danny DeVito. It was a commercial success and received general positive reviews from critics. However, audience reactions were mixed. Coming after the success of Romancing the Stone and its sequel, Jewel of the Nile, audiences expected another light-hearted romp from the popular trio. Instead, they got a scathing, cynical look at marriage that shocked many viewers. The film's commercial success was also tempered by criticism that both leads were too unlikable, and their increasingly outrageous behavior stretched credibility. Yet, it's precisely this willingness to push boundaries that makes The War of the Roses so remarkable. Few mainstream Hollywood titles have dared to explore the toxic potential of marriage with such unflinching honesty. The film's satirical edge offers a scathing critique of materialism, transforming the Roses' obsession with their possessions into a metaphor for the hollow nature of their relationship. The movie ultimately serves as a cautionary tale, encouraging viewers to reflect on their own relationships and the importance of addressing issues before they escalate. What also elevates the material beyond mere misanthropic comedy is the chemistry between Douglas and Turner. Their third collaboration allowed them to subvert audiences' expectations, transforming their established romantic dynamic into something far more complex and volatile. The duo is critical in delivering this dark and edgy take on marriage, drawing on themes similar to Ingmar Bergman's Scenes from a Marriage. Douglas's transformation from a loving husband to vindictive adversary is particularly chilling, showcasing his ability to tap into darker, emotional territories. Turner's Barbara is equally compelling as she navigates her own frustrations and desires. Special mention goes to Danny DeVito, whose supporting role as lawyer Gavin D'Amato serves as sort of a Greek chorus. All of this is possible through one of the movie's other highlights, the screenplay. Michael Leeson's adaptation of the novel crackles with acerbic wit, delivering dialogue that's both hilarious and devastating.
Because when I watch you eat, when I see you asleep, when I look at you lately, I just want to smash your face in.
The film's refusal to pick sides, portraying both Barbara and Oliver as deeply flawed individuals, was a bold choice for a mainstream comedy, as was its uncompromising ending. The dialogue, laden with sarcasm and biting remarks, is not only funny but also revealing of character, and drives the plot forward, making each exchange meaningful and engaging. Finally, thanks to Danny DeVito's direction, we end up with a title that transcends genres. The movie seamlessly blends elements of romantic comedy, drama, and even horror, creating a unique tone that defies easy categorization. What starts as a typical marital dispute spirals into increasingly outrageous and violent confrontations, challenging audiences' expectations of how far can a comedy go. War of the Roses might not get the recognition or popularity it deserves, something that will undoubtedly change with the upcoming remake. But it's still a fascinating dark comedy that pushes both leads to the limit. If you're looking for a title that will surprise you, this is definitely one to add to your watch list. And as we entered the 1990s, Douglas found himself at the intersection of technology, power, and his post-Basic Instinct fame in Barry Levinson's provocative disclosure. Tom Sanders, played by Michael Douglas, is the pivotal figure in this title, playing a high-ranking executive at Digicom, a cutting-edge tech company on the brink of a major merger. Expecting a promotion to vice president, Tom is blindsided when his former lover, Meredith Johnson, played by Demi Moore, is given the role instead. Shortly after her appointment, Meredith summons Tom for a private meeting where she aggressively propositions him. When Tom rejects her advances, Meredith retaliates by accusing him of sexual harassment in an attempt to destroy his career. Facing public humiliation and potential ruin, Tom fights back by filing his own harassment claim against her, a bold move that turns him into an outcast at work. Disclosure had the benefit of riding the wave of popularity fueled by both the relevance of its source material's author, Michael Crichton, and the successful trend of erotic thrillers Hollywood produced following the success of 1992's Basic Instinct. With Michael Douglas and Demi Moore in the leads, the film was an immediate hit. However, much like Basic Instinct, Disclosure faced significant criticism. Critics argued that it oversimplified and sensationalized the issue of sexual harassment in the workplace, reducing it to a plot device for a thriller. Many felt this title trivialized this serious topic. Moore's character particularly drew criticism for potentially reinforcing negative stereotypes about ambitious women. These criticisms aren't accurate at all, failing to address the depth and nuanced stakes of the movie. Disclosure stands out among other similar titles primarily due to its execution and its willingness to explore a morally complex situation. Bold and innovative for its time, the film masterfully navigates a morally gray area, tackling topics of sexual misconduct, office politics, and professional power struggles. Levinson's title delves into the ambiguity of a pivotal incident, an attempted male rape that the victim partially consents to, whilst challenging viewers to reconsider the easy categorization of victim and perpetrator. The film also offers a glimpse into corporate culture in the mid-1990s, providing a snapshot of gender roles and office dynamics during that period. Beyond its execution, Disclosure also excels in its thematic exploration and focus on individual actions, providing much more than a typical thriller. At its core, the film is a reflection of loyalty versus self-preservation. As Tom Sanders grapples with the choice of whether to expose the truth or stay silent and protect his career, viewers are prompted to consider how far someone should go to preserve their own well-being in the face of moral conflict. The battle between truth and perception also plays a significant role in the narrative, as the characters must confront the gap between the actual events and how these are perceived or manipulated. A recurring mention in this segment is the praise for the acting, and Disclosure is no exception. Both Douglas and Moore deliver performances that crackle with tension in their scenes together. Their complicated history and power struggle create a dynamic that's both unsettling and compelling. Michael Douglas portrays a nuanced character, skillfully blending vulnerability with resolve. His journey, from initial confusion to a quiet but firm determination, captures the essence of someone caught in a morally ambiguous situation, fighting to clear his name and preserve his career. On the other side of the equation, Demi Moore's portrayal of Meredith Johnson adds layers to the story. She walks the fine line between antagonist and protagonist, creating a character who's both charismatic and dangerous, complex, and contradictory. Finally, Disclosure serves as a perfect example of the nostalgic allure of the 1990s tech boom. The film's vision of virtual reality and cutting-edge technology may seem quaint by today's standards, but it captures the optimism and anxiety surrounding the digital revolution. Like other tech-centric thrillers of the era, such as The Net, which also starred Dennis Miller, it taps into cultural fears about how technology might reshape human relationships and power structures. The film delivers a vision for the future, encapsulating the cultural zeitgeist of the mid-1990s. In light of the current climate, the movie may feel a bit dated, but the way it handles the subject matter, through an unbiased form, makes Disclosure a must-watch for any movie lover. I wrap up this list on a lighter tone through the fifth and final entry, the 1995 romantic comedy, The American President. President Andrew Shepard, played by Michael Douglas, is a widower navigating both national politics and single fatherhood whilst preparing for re-election in this Rob Reiner romantic comedy. When he meets Sydney Helen Wade, played by Annette Bening, an environmental lobbyist advocating for stricter environmental legislation, he is immediately drawn to her intelligence and passion. Their budding romance becomes public knowledge, creating political turmoil as Shepard's opponents use it against him to question his character and leadership abilities. Meanwhile, Shepard must also navigate critical political battles over gun control legislation and environmental policy, whilst maintaining his integrity both as a leader and a man in love. The American President was well received by both critics and audiences, earning solid box office numbers both in the US and internationally. However, not everyone was on board with the film's tone. The blend of romantic comedy with political drama didn't quite sit well with viewers, who found the mix a bit jarring. Additionally, the film has been criticized for presenting an overly simplified and idealized view of politics and the presidency. Critics felt it portrayed the political machine in Washington as too clean and optimistic, glossing over the real complexities of governance. Some even saw it as a nostalgic attempt to recapture the Kennedy era, painting a Camelot-like vision of the White House. Yet, it's precisely this idealism that gives The American President its enduring appeal. In an era of increasing political cynicism, Aaron Sorkin's screenplay offers a refreshing vision of leadership guided by integrity rather than expediency. The way he intertwines humor with serious political themes is truly remarkable. Whether it's the president's impassioned speech about the flag-burning amendment or the light-hearted banter between the president and his staff, the dialogue feels real and meaningful, revealing both character motivations and the weight of the political decisions at hand. The richness of Sorkin's writing, with his intellectual depth and human touch, would later become a hallmark of his work, setting the foundation for successful TV shows such as The West Wing and The Newsroom. In addition to Sorkin's writing, the movie's cast also deserves praise. Michael Douglas, playing the president, brings a vulnerability and charm that isn't typically seen in his usual roles. It's an opportunity to see a side of Douglas rarely explored in his career. Alongside him, Martin Sheen as A.J. McHenry gives a solid, loyal performance that foreshadows his iconic role in The West Wing. Michael J. Fox's portrayal of the youthful, idealistic Louis Rothschild adds a burst of energy that resonates, much like his later work in the sitcom Spin City. Richard Dreyfuss also stands out as Senator Bob Brumson, the perfect political antagonist. His portrayal of a conservative opportunist is compelling and adds depth to the political friction driving the film's central conflict. The fact that some of these actors would go on to take similar roles on TV is a testament to the strength of the movie's script, which gave them room to start exploring their character types. The movie also presents an optimistic view of American democracy that's as relevant today as it was when the film was released. The president stands as a moral compass, making difficult decisions based on his principles. This portrayal of leadership guided by integrity and a genuine desire to serve the people reminds us that politics is not just about power, but principle. By showing the president's staff as a group of dedicated public servants who put country before party, the movie gives us a hopeful look at a potential for positive political change, reinforcing that the true value of democracy lies in honesty and integrity. Lastly, The American President remains relevant because it addresses timeless issues that still resonate with audiences. The film explores the balancing act between personal life and public duty, with the media's constant scrutiny making leadership all the more challenging. It delves into the tension between idealism and pragmatism in governance, showing how public opinion can shape policy decisions. The film's portrayal of a leader striving for positive change through integrity and honesty speaks to a universal truth about the nature of politics. Even decades after its release, The American President continues to feel fresh and impactful, reminding us of the enduring importance of moral leadership. Definitely the lighter mention on this list, and one of Michael Douglas's less ambiguous roles, The American President is like a balm for the soul in the way it humanizes the private and public life of the leader of the free world. And with that, I wrap up this exploration of Michael Douglas's most underrated and underseen films. These movies might not always get the spotlight, but they chronicle the intermediate, not often mentioned steps in the actor's career that contributed to solidifying his role in stature as a titan of cinema.